Hello, 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 and welcome to the College of Creation. My name is Dan.
And my name is Michael.
And we are Dungeons and Dragons DMs who love to homebrew items, spells, creatures, and features for D&D. And this is an episode... this is a show where we make brand new homebrew every single episode. This is an episode of the show that we make.
In fact, it is an episode, and you're listening to it right now.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Thanks for being here.
We make things based on prompts that we get from our listeners and our community. And this week we have been challenged to make a monster with different tiers.
Yeah.
Like some of the older versions have done. Now, this is a prompt from John, who we have had on the show before, who has more experience than I think either you and I with non-5th edition versions of D&D.
Maybe this is the episode he should have guessed on.
Possibly.
So he could have taught us.
Could have told us what was going on. No, but we did some research. I did some research, at least. I won't speak for you, Michael. But I definitely looked into like what exactly do we mean by this? And I hope that I got it right from what the assessment I made was. Because I was definitely, not entirely sure where to go with this right off the bat.
Yeah.
Until I dug a little bit into this idea of like tiered things. And it's not so much like what I was initially thinking with like mythical actions and mythical evolution stuff. It's more the way that like the combat design and math was done in older versions. Without CR and with a different structure of things.
I did no research. I think my sticking point, because last episode we spoke with Sunfire, who was our wonderful guest, and we talked about her favorite and least favorite monsters, and you said that you might try and make her a favorite, and I would try and make her least favorite, and that was my failing this week, as I was too focused on trying to make that monster type, which happened to be dragons. I don't particularly think dragons are very interesting, just because they're you kind of know what you're gonna get a lot of the time when you have a dragon. But dragons certainly don't need any help. Certainly not from me. I think I was trying to conquer Switzerland this week. Just didn't need to happen.
I do have a question though to lead in, Michael.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking so much about designing encounters and how encounters are designed. And we've talked in the past about how like challenge rating is not incredibly useful for that work.
Yeah.
Because for those of you who may not have ever designed an encounter before, you may not know what that little number means, but that is a number that supposedly is a representation of how it's a representation of what level party would be necessary to make that a like medium hard, challenging, but certainly not overwhelming encounter, assuming you have 4 players at the table, and assuming that is the only monster in the encounter. Like that's what that number is supposed to represent. It's tricky. How do you design encounters, though?
So when I started DMing, I was really only doing it virtually. I started really DMing during the pandemic, so all of my games were over Discord, and when you learn by doing in that context, you get very used to having all of the information at your fingertips, right? You can have all of the tabs of all of your stat blocks, all of your maps, all of your players' character sheets, all a click away. And I became very accustomed to playing that way. So I would have things planned out. I would have different things. I would have changes that could occur in combats. Sometimes I had alternate versions of maps with different parts of it altered in case like a bomb went off, that we'd have a cliffside that broke off, or whatever the case may be. I'd have things like that prepared. And since then, I've really started trying to push myself to branch out and play in person more, run games where I don't have all the information. I've run completely improvised games in person without books on hand, so you have to kind of make the stat blocks up on the fly. And so I think I found, as I'm building encounters, I try and look at my characters' sheets first to make sure that I'm not going to put something on the board that feels immediately unfair. I actively try as a DM to not negatively metagame them. Like at the start of a combat, I try and give them a couple boosts. I try and throw things at them to make them feel stronger, and then gradually pull those back, take those away. If a combat goes really long, then I'll say, okay, we have a barbarian and a fighter in the field. We're going to throw some flying enemies into the mix, and we'll make them fight at range or something like that. But I really try and plan encounters now very consciously with my players in mind first, and then take layers away as the combat goes on.
I think that's probably a significantly better way to approach it than I think just like, you know, putting a handful of monsters into a kobold fight club type situation, right? To like here will be a fun, like I want an encounter with devils because we're in the hells, and so just grabbing like some random fiends that match, you know, it's like, okay, what do I want this to be, like a hard encounter? Okay, here's the random assortment that it gave me. That'll work fine. I just don't think that is feasible, and I think that your way is much more, you know, it follows, I think, from the same theory as Shoot Your Monks, which for those uninitiated is the concept that like monks get the ability to deflect ranged attacks, arrows, darts, whatever. The DM urge from the meta above table, if you are working with a DMs versus player scenario, is, well, the DM knows that you can do that, so the DM is not going to shoot you, right? Going to make sure that all of the enemies who attack the monk do it in melee or do it with magic, and you know, you never let your monk do that thing. And I think, you know, the concept of Shoot Your Monks is to say like, no, this is a game that we're all playing together, and you want your players to have the opportunity to do those cool things that they want to do. Mm-hmm. And so, and I think the way you're talking about designing your encounters is also very much like tuned to what your players can do and what they want to do, like what they
want
find
to make
fun.
Your players feel heroic.
Right.
Yes, you want to make them feel like the things that they are capable of doing matter. Because D&D in general, when you think of that, you're always kind of comparing character to character. Mm-hmm. When in your nucleus, right, in your own little game, you should be comparing these 4 adventurers against like thousands of commoners, right?
Right.
These are incredibly special individuals, like
Definitely.
high-powered, very individualized, and they should play that way.
Yes.
And as a DM, you need to play into that at first, and then as it goes on, if they are just steamrolling you, then you add in levels to your combat that push against what they do well and kind of maybe exploit what they are not so good at.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't even need to get to the exploitation part. You just have to push back enough to make it feel as dangerous as your players want it to feel.
Well, and this is where I always reach for secondary objectives, right? Like when I'm designing a combat, I am almost never, I shouldn't say never, but I'm very rarely designing combat for the sake of just putting something in front of them to fight. Most of the time, they want to go and fight something in order to progress something, and the enemies that they're fighting have their own machinations, or there is a secondary goal that these enemies are standing in the way of. And so setting up some sort of additional objective or some complication. One round in, they notice something different about the situation. Maybe there's a prisoner that you didn't notice before, and now just going all out is suddenly a potential threat that you need to figure out the secondary objective while also holding off these other enemies, whatever it is, right? And so what you're saying, I think, makes a lot of sense, where like you give yourselves those options, not necessarily all of the options that you were talking about, not necessarily like 15 maps of like different ways that the terrain could change. But I think giving yourself a couple of options to say like, hey, this is the situation as they walk into it. But like, if this happens, the enemies will respond in this way, and it will escalate and change the situation so that it's not a straight fight.
Yes.
Now it's different.
Enemy response is huge. Yes, enemy response is huge. Because also, if you use your player's character sheets as a jumping off point, that allows room for the fight to grow organically, right? The reactions of the enemies and then the subsequent reactions by your players can build a story of the combat for you. You don't have to sit before the fight and figure out all the different ways it could change, because most of the time it's not going to go the way you plan it. By dice rolls alone, it's not going to go the way that you think it will go.
I mean, this is
unless you fudge dice. Unless you fudge dice.
Hey, talk with your table about it. That's all I want to say. Talk with your table. Establish the ground rules for that, because no one wants to get thrown for a loop if they find out that something's been happening that they were not okay with. Make sure things are above board. Make sure that you're aware of that. But I mean, to go back to what you just said, I think that's why my like biggest top level advice piece that I always want to point to as a DM for new DMs or for people who ask me like how I keep things straight or make things feel organic and things like that is you have to know your world and the people in it. That is the key thing, because plots will stem out of knowing who those people are and what they want. And that, I think you're absolutely right. That definitely also is true of combat encounters. If you know what the enemies want, you will know much more truly how they will react. Like, this is not a JRPG where there's just random encounters and these enemies will just fight to death until they, dissolve in like red mist. That's not what we're playing. A game that is supposed to have some like weight. So like, there are certainly enemies that would battle to that degree, but there are definitely also a lot that wouldn't, a lot that will try and find a way out, or they'll try and find a way to get the upper hand that doesn't rely on their own skill set. If they see quickly that they're not going to be a match for you, what do they turn to? Did they turn to something that like gives them an ace in the hole? I've got, a ballista over here. It's covered by a tarp. I didn't think I needed to use it, but actually now 3d10 is way more damage that I can do on my own. So I'm going to run away from you and try and man that instead. Right. So just like knowing the tools that is available to them and who they are and what they want and what they're willing to do to get it is what's going to give you really good plot and push combats to be way more interesting.
I agree. Speaking of interesting combats,
yes,
we supposedly have created two things tonight that will create a more interesting landscape for combat. Fingers crossed.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
You want to go first? I believe I went first when we were speaking to Sunfire.
I would love to go first. I call this intuitive combat.
Okay.
Basically, this is the method for slow dripping abilities and stats into a stat block as a combat goes on. So the longer a combat lasts, the stronger a monster will become because it gains new abilities each round.
Yeah.
So this is what I have. In combat, especially if creatures on either side are previously unaware of their adversaries, the initial round should likely be used to size up the opposition and test the waters. From there, each passing round can teach a creature something new about what may be their best course of action. Even a decently intelligent creature has the ability to analyze the flow of battle and purposefully stretch out a fight, allowing them more time to uncover possible weaknesses in an opponent. Incremental combat is a system that allows creatures to benefit by staying in initiative for longer periods of time. So each creature begins with a base set of abilities, but gains a more specific and powerful skill set as the rounds of combat progress. A creature with a higher intelligence score may learn new abilities at the top of every round, while lower intelligence creatures would wait 2 or 3 rounds between boons. Some creatures might even have the chance to choose between multiple abilities during an advancement round. A typical advancement scenario might look like the one laid out below. And I made a flowchart. So your base stat block for a monster is what you'd use at the beginning of combat. After a couple rounds, maybe round 2, their movement might hike, or they could add 1 or 2 points to a skill modifier, maybe an attack or a damage boost. By the 5th round of combat, they gain a new ability, a new action or bonus action.
Cool.
6th round, maybe they upgrade that ability, or they gain a resistance to a damage type that they have seen used in battle.
Oh.
And if you stretch all the way to the 7th round or 8th round, you hike up your ability scores. Either you're so low on health that your adrenaline is pumping and you hike up your constitution or your strength.
Yeah.
You push it to an 8th round. A steeper upgrade to the new ability that you gained a few rounds back.
I like it. I think it creates a really interesting opportunity. I don't know if you get into this later, but I just want to get it out of my brain now. I think it also creates really a fun opportunity, especially for big set piece monsters, right? I don't think this is necessarily a thing you would need to use for every single encounter, but I think for big set pieces, it could be really cool, especially to kind of de-incentivize players from taking the same actions every single time or casting the same spell. Like if like a defensive bonus on round, 4 or something like that is suddenly I'm going to give this monster advantage on saving throws against any spell that it has seen you cast before. If it's seen you cast it, now it knows to look for it and it will have advantage on those. So now you have to try different spells. Or, if you're trying to grapple it, it's going to, now it knows you've been trying to grapple it. It's not going to let you do that anymore. It's going to get stronger and stronger against the things that it's seen you do. And so it kind of incentivizes the group to find a different solution, to try new things, to circumvent the way that it's strategizing around your movements.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. It's just it's a different way to make like you said, the big set piece monsters a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting, and a little bit more challenging for players that may know the stat blocks. Mm-hmm. I'm sure every DM has played with their friends or even with strangers, that are avid players that have played with these rules for a long time, and it can get repetitive playing against a dragon that is going to have their rend attack, their breath weapon attack, maybe their wing attack, a couple legendary actions, legendary resistance, done, right? Call it a day. That's a dragon. But this way, it gives them a little bit of hesitation when they act. Maybe they go into it thinking that they know, and then the dragon uses something that they don't expect. And they're like, oh, wait, maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Yeah. Which is what we want. Yeah. We want good surprises. Surprises in good faith. Yes. That's what we want as DMs. But this is my example. This is a young gold dragon. I said in rounds 3 and 5, at the top of round 3, the dragon's walking and swim speed increases to 50 from 40, and then again to 60 feet at the top of round 5. Okay. At round 4, The dragon's attack roll modifier increases to plus 11 from 10, and the damage increases to plus 6. It increases to plus 7 from 6. By round 6, the dragon gains 1 new resistance to a damage type that has been used within the current combat. If by round 6, if you've already hit it with 3 Rays of Frost, it's going to build up a resistance to frost, right? And then round 7 and 8, this is like getting deep into combat. Yeah. This maybe not the BBEG, because that can be like full session, 2 sessions, like make that a big masterpiece of a game ender. But this is definitely an anti-boss, some type of lower level sub boss of some sort at the top of round 7 and 8, and I assume any rounds past this, if you want to add them in, the dragon can choose to either increase an ability score of its choice by 1, or gain one of the legendary actions from the adult gold dragon stat block.
Cool.
So it just increasing its action economy, but deep into the combat.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it has that like escalating tension thing that you want for an intense combat, especially.
Yeah.
I think you could even do a thing where, like, if you've got an enemy that is recurring, you know, maybe they keep 1 or 2 of these things. Your party gets into combat with them once, goes 3 rounds, and then they escape or whatever it is. They keep that movement bonus, or they keep that damage buff the next time that you encounter them. You know, really making both of those combats feel very different. Right from the get-go. And yeah, I think this is a great... there's something very like anime about it, right? There's something like, I feel my power growing stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
You think that trick will work on me again? Ha! I've seen through you now. And like, it's not quite that intense. We're you know, I think limiting it a little bit, you know, especially because if a combat is going that long, it's probably pretty dire for the party already. Like,
for sure.
The best thing for a party is for combat to end within like 3 rounds. If it goes much longer than that, like it's getting worse and worse in general for the party. But I think this can really ramp up a tense moment. Or if your party has been like crushing it for the first 3 rounds and that young gold dragon is starting to look rough, and then you suddenly give it a huge defensive bonus, or not a huge, but a slight defensive bonus or a slight damage output bonus.
Yeah.
Turns the tables, right? Suddenly it's doing way more damage, or it's able to move around more easily. It feels earned too, right? You're not just like throwing this in there arbitrarily when you as the DM are like, this isn't fair or this isn't fun for me. Like, you're doing this kind of in a structured way that is like, it's got a
It doesn't feel like a personal attack.
Right. Yeah. It feels responsive. It feels like true to the monster's experience of battle as well.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's cool.
Thank you. I was also thinking, if you did want to use this more early game, one way that you could do it is just take things out of an existing stat block. You can just start with a stripped back stat block, and as the rounds go, just add things back in that would have been in the stat block already. So you're not adding things on top of a monster, you're just working your way up to the fully realized version of what it would have been anyways, as an alternate way to use this if you're running a lower level campaign.
Well, I tell you what, Michael, on that note, why don't you go ahead and open up your document for my creation this week, because it's not totally off base from what you just said.
Perfect.
My document here in the creation that I made doesn't really have a name exactly, except for it's a tier system, but that's not particularly new. I just said challenge rating stinks. What about the tier system instead?
It does stink, dude. It does stink, man.
Big old disclaimer at the top of the page. I have not playtested this at all. I do not know if it works. Your mileage will vary.
Yeah.
Hey, players, have you ever felt like CR1 monsters are sometimes unreasonably powerful at low levels? What about CR15 monsters that get totally wrecked by your party of mid-level adventurers? CR is very inconsistent system for building encounters with so many variables to consider, like DM strategy, action economy, magic item use, and dice randomness. It makes many encounters that feel very swingy and often leave players and DMs asking themselves, isn't there a better way?
Isn't there? Maybe.
I don't know. So this is not an entirely fresh concept. It actually uses a lot of the elements that I think you were already talking about in your creation. And much like your creation, it's also very loose at the moment. Like, it could be much more structured. For right now, it is like some guidelines for DMs to maybe think about using. The tier system groups your party into a tier based on their average level, and monster abilities can be added or subtracted to suit the party's tier. So, party average level could be 1 to 4, tier 1, 5 to 8, tier 2, 9 to 12, tier 3, 13 to 17, tier 4, 18 plus, tier 5. I think that lines up with the, like, you know, tiers of play of, like, monsters, or, like, the types of situations that you're dealing with at certain levels of the game, whether it be, like, local issues, town size, city size, nation size, and like global concerns. It kind of lines up with that. Now, do you need one creature to pose a reasonable challenge to a tier 3 party? You can use all the tier 3 abilities for a single monster and maybe throw in a couple of tier 4 abilities too if you really want a challenge. Do you need a large group of minions to distract and harry your group? Toss a bunch of small creatures with only the stripped down T1 abilities their way. Does this mean you would have to rewrite the entire monster manual? Yes. Am I going to do that? Absolutely not. But here are some examples, and I don't know, this is maybe the kind of thing that's like, hey, we're going to put out a monster book that exclusively it is monsters that are designed with tiered structure.
For the tier system. Yeah.
So my couple of examples, I truly just picked random monsters. I did random dice rolls and letter spinners to get to random monsters. And so we start with the Death Slad. The Death Slad is typically, I believe, a CR10.
Yep.
It has an AC of 18, 178 hit points, pretty high stats across the board, strength, con, and charisma, all significant. Nothing below 10. So I said this was a medium aberration, chaotic evil, and I put it as a base tier 3. This, I think, is the kind of monster that I would put in front of a party of levels 9 to 12, depending on various factors. I have mostly the whole basic stat block here. It's got some skills. It's got damage resistance to elemental damage. It has a blind sight and dark vision, and has a number of actions, traits, etc. But I split out a couple of things. The first thing is that I added tier notes. At tier 2, if you want to bring this down and call it a tier 2 monster instead, bring the AC down to 15, minus 50 hit points, minus 1 to all ability scores, and then you choose 1 skill proficiency and 2 resistances only, and remove the blind sight. That's already, if you bring this down to a tier 2, you're already taking like just that. Then we have also the traits. At tier 2, it gets magic resistance. If you want to bump it up and keep it at a tier 3, it also gets regeneration. And actions, you can give it a multi-attack at tier 3, but if you want to up it even to a tier 4, at least, throw a little bit more of a heavy hitter, give it 3 Chaos Blade attacks instead. If you want to keep it a little bit lighter as a tier 2, remove the additional condition of potential charm, frightened, or poisoned. I think at a tier 2 you could have that, but just remove incapacitated as an option.
Yeah.
And just
seems a bit steep.
Reroll on a 4 or choose something else on a 4 instead. It also gets spellcasting as a base. If you want to take it down to a tier 2, just remove the 1 per day each spells. It can cast Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, Invisibility, Mage Hand, and Major Image, but you don't give it access to Blight and Cloud Kill, or Plane Shift and Tongues. A little bit easier to manage. So all of that is somewhat complicated to read out on a podcast. Sorry about that, listeners. But if you go on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/College of Creation Pod, you can look at the PDF of this and you will see kind of it's split out so that there's T2 options and T3 options for depending on how you want to run this. It could definitely be cleaned up to be much more readable, but that's not what I did. But you can kind of see what I'm going for here, Michael, right? Like, this does require a huge overhaul of things, and an entire overhaul of the CR system to say, like, it's tiers of play, and it's an a la carte situation, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to have all of the T3 options. If you want a tier 2 version of this creature that is still a little bit beefier, keep the regeneration. Keep the multi-attack or keep the damage output to 3d6 necrotic damage instead of 1d6. You can really piecemeal it so that each version of the thing is suited to what your party is, and you have all those options in front of you.
Right.
The other option here is a Jackal Were, which is a much lower creature, and I gave some options to bump it up. Notably, I didn't create for either of these options outside of 1 up and 1 down from where they are.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of already in the thing. Anyway, I don't know if this is anything, Michael. Got to be honest with you. A Jackal Were is a low-level fiend. If you want to bump it up to a tier 2, give it an AC of 15, add 15 hit points, add 1 to all ability scores, and choose 1 saving throw proficiency, and maybe give it resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. It has pack tactics already. If you want to bump it up to a tier 2, give it sneak attack too, because these are sneaky little guys.
Yeah.
I didn't change any actions or multi-attack at all. That feels like it would be great for either option, especially if you're adding a sneak attack. It'll increase the damage output per round a significant amount, especially if you're working with pack tactics as well. That's adding advantage to almost every attack, or it should. It's got Shapeshift. If you want to up it a little bit more, give it a cunning action as well. It can dash, disengage, hide, because again, it's a sneaky little guy. It doesn't have to have a ton of HP. It doesn't have to have a super high AC. What it needs to do is be able to get in, get out, and deal some damage, and also put you to sleep. I think this could be really, really simplified to just here's the structure, and here's a list of abilities or actions or slight adjustments to actions. But I feel like those sorts of guides are everywhere. And so I got most of the way through making this. It was just like, man, everybody and their mother has put out a supplement with tips on how to finesse challenge rating so that it feels slightly more difficult or slightly less difficult depending on the situation. That I almost was like, well, I should just scrap this and I don't know what I'm going to come up with. But I was like, I put in too much work into this and I'm not going to try and come up with a different idea. So instead of all of that, I'm going to point all of our listeners in the direction of Matt Colville and a video that he made years and years ago.
A long time ago.
Which is still, for me, the gold standard. But it's a video where he talks through ways to make your combat encounters more, he calls them dynamic encounters, I believe.
Dynamic encounters, and he has leads and minions, I believe.
Yeah, leads, it's the whole structure is way more comprehensive than this and makes way more sense, and doesn't require overhauling the entire monster manual, but instead gives you really clear-cut structure to fix up your encounters so that they feel really unique. So instead of going to read my PDF, go read Michael's PDF on the Patreon, and then go watch that Matt Colville video, which we will also include in the description of this podcast.
I really like this idea. If for no other reason than to make another creature in a game into the perfect rival for a party.
Mm-hmm.
This is the perfect way to up tier a recurring villain.
Yeah.
It is very red and blue in original Pokemon, right? Where you meet up 7 times throughout a game, and they're just a little bit stronger, and they happen to have something that gets at your weaknesses every time. And this is a very cool way to do that for a DM, to have like the tier notes inside of a stat block, so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth or making things up on the fly.
That's kind of what I was thinking, was like, it would be great to have it all kind of self-contained, but it's messy. It's really messy and hard to read with all of the notes in there. So maybe there's a way to clean it up and still make it readable while also still making it something that you don't have to have a separate reference for it. But I don't know. Well, anyway,
this has been an enlightening episode.
It has, yeah.
We talked a little bit off mic. This, I think, is the first time it's happened where both of us have entered the episode a bit unsure of the things that we have made. I don't think either of our creations are really finished. They both need some more work.
They both feel like they are really loose frameworks. And honestly, it kind of feels just like loose frameworks that is just like advice if you're a DM building encounters for like, here's some things that you might try if you want to make a combat encounter feel more dynamic and interesting. But truly, go and listen to Matt Colville. He's been doing this for longer than either of us, probably both of us combined.
Correct.
The guy knows what he's talking about, and respect on his name for sure. But I do feel like, if nothing else, I do think we presented, there is some good advice there of how you can address these situations and how to build combat in general. And I think it's very interesting that both of us kind of landed on the same sorts of things when it came to solving this problem, which is like,
similar.
Have your monsters feel unique. Give them something special. But you also don't have to homebrew a monster from scratch. We do it, but you don't have to. You can take a monster. At all. Yeah, you can take a monster like a young gold dragon, or like a death slat, or like a jackalware, and you can add or subtract elements kind of piecemeal if you feel like something is going to be too much, or if you feel like something is going to be really too easy to overcome. Gold Dragon's got immunity to fire. Great. Not a single person in my party has fire damage that they deal. So that's basically useless. Cool. Do something different. Like adjust one piece of its defenses. And breaking it up into those little pieces really helps to understand what you can adjust and what you don't want to adjust, right? It's got defenses, it's got skills, it's got movement, and it's got damage. Like, how can you slightly move one piece of that to just make it feel a little more unique? And I think your structure is very cool at like spacing that out.
Thank you.
Giving a sort of roadmap for, you don't want to do them all at once, but maybe one piece here and here and here at a time. Overall, it ends up feeling much more powerful by the end of the combat, which I think is fun.
And to your credit, I think your structure is as good in a different direction. I think the thing that it does very well is remind DMs, especially newer ones, to write things down so you don't forget them. I made that mistake so many times when I first started running combats, where I would change something and I would forget it halfway through, and either it needed to come back up again to make that part of the combat significant and I couldn't remember what it was, or it wasn't there in the stat block, so I forgot an ability that a monster had, or a cool action that I added in. So if you add in new options, just write them into the stat block. If you have a physical copy, just take a pencil and write it right on your paper. Say, no fire immunity, cold immunity instead. And you won't ever have to remember it. Take as much stress off of your brain as you possibly can, because combat is a complex thing to run.
It is.
It is not easy. Yeah.
I cannot recommend Outside Brain enough. Outside Brain is so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get a journal.
Write it down. Write it down.
Yeah, great. Well, Michael, what a pleasure as always.
Yeah.
Shall we roll for what we're going to make next time?
Yes. I don't have any dice, so great.
I got it. I will roll. Here we go. That is a 10.
A 10. This is from Wayward Enigma Designs on TikTok.
Hello.
Spells that cost an incredible amount of gold to cast.
Okay, cool.
What a funny prompt.
I think this is going to slot really nicely into our tax collector and Great Pyramid Warlock lore.
Great Pyramid Warlock. Yep.
That's very nice. Very nice. Yeah, spells that cost
really
an incredible amount of gold to cast.
An incredible
amount. What are the current highest costs in the spellcasting list?
The diamonds that cost like 1,000 gold, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know the exact highest, but that's got to be close.
It
without
must
actually looking in.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, diamonds, gemstones, or do any spells require magic items to be sacrificed? I don't think so.
I don't think to be sacrificed. Let's see. I mean, astral projection requires a jacinth worth 1,000 plus gold pieces and 1 silver bar worth 100 gold pieces, all of which the spell consumes. So that's 1,100 gold.
Yeah.
It's pretty high. Gate requires a diamond worth 5,000, but it doesn't consume it.
Okay.
So you can use that again. Similarly, imprisonment requires a statuette of the target worth 5,000 gold pieces. That's crazy. Who has that? Who has that?
You have to have it specially made.
Yeah, I just had this statue of you, actually, as it happens. I knew that I was going to cast imprisonment on you specifically. That is some very strong supervillain energy there.
Yeah. Premeditated.
1,500 gold person Jade Circlet for shape change. True Resurrection. There you go. I think it's True Resurrection.
Okay.
And this is going to be a tough number to beat because this is 25,000 gold pieces, which the spell consumes.
Lot of gold pieces. That's so much gold.
It's that lot makes sense,
of
though. Gold.
True Resurrection. That's big magic. That's
huge magic. It is just about the biggest magic.
Yeah. Outside of Wish, that is it.
You touch a creature that has been dead for no longer than 200 years and died for any reason except old age. Wild stuff.
I'd say that's about a $25,000 price tag.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right. That also sounds like about how much the U.S. healthcare system would charge you for it. Ayo.
Yeah, and only increasing. It's only going up.
Well, gang, I guess we're gonna have to beat 25,000 gold pieces.
We're gonna get there.
So high bar, but. I'll look forward to it. Until then, Michael, I will speak to you about that in a couple of weeks. Listeners, we will talk to you then. Michael, do you have anything to say to the people before we say goodbye other than write things down?
Friends, we are coming up on the end of the year. In a couple days, it'll be New Year's Day. We're going to be in 2026. I implore you to look to your communities that you find yourselves within. Find some connections with some new people in the new year. Bridge some gaps. And look forward. I know it's many months away, but look forward to a very interesting and probably uncomfortable midterm election in November of 2026. spend this year paying attention to the things that are happening around you. Take stock of what is important and what you think is worth fighting for and worth voting for.
Participate in some mutual aid, gang. Take care of the people in your direct community, the people around you, your neighbors, your town, whatever your local folks are. Those are the people who you can help the most with your time, with your energy. There's a wonderful quote that I hope I am not wrongly attributing to Hanif Abdurraqib. Says, if your life is great, it is because your neighbors are great, which is to say, it is because the people in your direct community make that life worth living and make it beautiful. The people who you encounter, see every day, walking to work, going to the grocery store, whatever it is, those people who you see, those are the people who you can make the biggest impact on in your community. And so I encourage you to make sure that impact is a positive one on everyone.
Yeah. Change begins at the local level.
And, that goes for this coming year of 2026 and beyond. I hope that, that is something that we all take heart each and every year, each day, whatever it is.
I hope you have a wonderful and healthy end to your holiday season. Hope you have a brilliant beginning of your new year. And we're just so happy to have you listening. Couldn't appreciate you more. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Until next time, folks, we will talk to you in a couple of weeks. Goodbye.
Happy New Year.